بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, as Ibrahim mentioned, I'm currently been working for about 7 years now as a doctor, so graduated from UCL. I know we're a bit short on time, so I'll just run through my sort of journey into medicine, where I am at the moment, and also similar to the other people, just discuss briefly what kind of skills you need, sort of the career progression, the variety and diversity within medicine, and also a typical working day for myself. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So Alhamdulillah, I've kind of decided quite late, I would say, to do medicine. It was just before the UCAS applications. Don't know if they still use UCAS, but it was around lower sixth form. And initially I was deciding between dentistry and medicine. And what swayed me more towards medicine was more the variety within medicine, and how you can sort of dictate your career after post-graduation. And it had more of a generic appeal to me with regards to the diversity of the specializing fields. Having said that, during university, medicine was very different as an undergraduate than it was as a postgraduate. So it is a long undergraduate career, so it's 5 to 6 years in most universities. And on my other brother's going to talk about university stuff, so I won't go into too much detail there. And I started really enjoying my medical training towards the end of my undergraduate career, because there was much more of a practical element, sort of hands-on, learning new practical procedures, seeing patients in hospitals, getting to travel a bit. So I got to go to Australia for my elective for a couple of months, and working in A&E there in Sydney, which was a good experience as well. And then I came back and worked, moved back home to Birmingham, closer to family, got a job. So one of the benefits of medicine is that there's always pretty much 100% guaranteed to get a job when you graduate. There is a slight variety in where you get your job, depending on how competitive the jobs are in particular areas. Northwest London is actually one of the more competitive areas, but even then, within London, there's still plenty of jobs around, and people do often commute to their work. And then since then, I did my foundation training, which everyone does. So you're based in hospital for the first 2 years. You can also have a job in a GP surgery as part of that block. And those years are really about getting to know which part of medicine you like going forward in your career, but also trying to become a good doctor, a well-rounded doctor. And it's sort of around your second foundation year that you can decide whether you want to specialize first in hospital medicine or in primary care, which is general practice. And then having decided that, you can then decide amongst an array of specialties in hospital medicine, which specialty appeals to you. So I always liked sort of treating sick patients, the sort of, I guess you'd say more high pressure stuff, things like in A&E, in intensive care, doing practical procedures and really thinking fast on your feet, using the science that you learn for undergraduate and also in secondary school even, and putting that into practice in a sort of emergency situation. So I decided after my foundation years to specialize in anesthesia and intensive care. And when you apply for that job, you have to apply for the job again, obviously, to get a training post. You then have to do certain rotations. So you do, for example, 1 year working in A&E and medicine, and then you'll work in intensive care for 6 months to a year, and then you'll start doing your anesthesia training. So you still get a good variety of work. Now, obviously, that would be completely different to someone else who's decided to be a GP, and they'll just start working in a general practice and seeing patients in a general practice for pretty much the rest of their career. Having said that, there's always an option within each specialty even to sub-specialize. So it was all about, for me, deciding what kind of character traits I had, what I enjoyed at work, and trying to fit that with my chosen specialty. There are obviously still postgraduate exams to do within whichever specialty you do. So for example, in anesthesia, you still have to do 4 or 5 exams once you're in training. So you may be in your early 30s still sitting exams alongside your work as well. When you are training, before you're a consultant, if you're working in the hospital, most specialties will have to do on-call at night shifts and weekends. And that's pretty much across the board in most hospital specialties. Whereas in GP practice, most people don't have to work night shifts due to the nature of the work, obviously. Going on to salary, so the salary is decent. It's very much enough to get by. Obviously, it varies depending on what specialty you choose, but most people will start on a salary of 30 to 35,000 in the foundation year, and it actually quickly jumps up very quickly. So within 2 years, after the end of your foundation year two, pretty much every doctor will be on at least £50,000. And it depends then whether you carry on down the hospital specialty, your salary will hover around 60s, 70s until you're a consultant, or whether you go into the GP domain. And to become a GP is slightly quicker. It takes about 3 years after foundation years. And your salary can then range between 60, 70,000 to sort of astronomical figures, depending on what kind of GP you are. If you run a practice, you can get funding from the primary care network, and many of them earn six figures. Just to add on to the financial thing, so a lot of people do what's called locum work, which usually is at the same place they work, but just extra shifts, and they are paid again a lot more. So if you do need to earn extra money or cash, you can always work within the NHS. Obviously, we're in a COVID pandemic at the moment, so there's plenty of extra work going around. So more often than not, you're saying no to work rather than trying to look for work, if anything.
Wasim, any final words you want to say?
Yeah, I would say just to finish off, it is a very challenging career, but you have to be very patient. You have to be quite resilient. It is very humbling, obviously, seeing patients at their worst and trying to help them. And also from a personal perspective, you can't treat everyone as best as you want to. Your skills are only limited. It's all in the hands of Allah. And sometimes you just have to accept that. So there is a lot of humility within it. But you do get to know society quite well, regardless of which specialty you do. You get to know yourself and your own character quite well. Your day is very varied often. So I would say it's definitely been worth it. It's very enjoyable. I'm still learning every day, still learning new things, new sort of science, new technology, new procedures. I very much definitely say I'm still enjoying it, even though I've been doing it for so long.
So inshallah, we move on to Umar Al-Haddad to tell us about how to get into medicine, because Umar is he's in medical school right now, so he's fresh from within the university and knows exactly how it is. So over to you, Umar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Umar. Jazakallah khair for inviting me here. So I'm going to talk about how to get into medicine in the first place. And someone told me before I applied to medicine, and it kind of really stuck with me. Medicine chooses you rather than you choose medicine. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of the nature of how competitive getting into medical school is to begin with. So I'm just really here to say that to get into medicine is, without disrespect to any other fields, is probably one of the harder things that you can do. And more often than not, people do get rejected than they do get accepted. So so I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And by saying with GCSEs, for example, I'm not sure the age range is here, but I know some of you are in GCSEs looking to apply to medical school. And I think the easiest, simplest advice, and that, is pretty much applicable to all other fields, is you got to work hard for your GCSEs. And Cs, unfortunately, even though we know Cs is a pass, it would not work for medicine, specifically for the English and the maths. And then moving on to A-levels, things just get even more harder. So with A-levels, like the brother said, for example, law or teaching, you pretty much can go by doing any A-level subject, or you could even do a BTEC and you still manage to get into teaching, for example. With medicine, unfortunately, you can only do A-levels, and the A-levels you can do are quite specific. So universities are asking for now chemistry, biology, and now so it's very important that you pick those subjects for university. And even within A levels, within the first year, if you're in AS, you need to make sure that you're doing your work experience. And if obviously if it's with the COVID, they're much more lenient than that. But you have to now start thinking about in terms of finding work experience. And unlike your peers who are not applying to medical school, you have to do so much more in terms of extracurricular work experience, even preparing for interviews. And on top of that, you have to do admissions test. And we know people who got 9 A stars, and now people are is in terms of numbers. So 9 for example, at GCSEs, they get 4 A stars at A levels, and they still couldn't get into medical school simply because they failed an admissions test, or even they did well in it, but they couldn't get in because their interview was slacking, or simple stuff, they didn't have enough experience. So I'm really here to tell you that medicine chooses you rather than you choose medicine. So if you do know that you want to do it, you kind of just have to work hard in terms of GCSEs and A levels. And it's true for everywhere else, but it's something that people don't know how important it is once it's too late. So in the Q&A, if people are applying to get into medicine, inshallah, we could help you guys in terms of your application, personal statement, interview, and admission test, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.